All right, back in the basement again today. I want to give you guys some feedback on the Kabuki Columbia Bar, which I've had for a couple of months, but it hasn't broken into my normal rotation of bars, which is one of the reasons it's taken me so long to do a video on it. Now, that's not to say that this isn't a good barbell in a vacuum, but overall for me, it's a hard bar to recommend, and I'm going to go through why in this video in case you're interested, or in case you just want to know more about this bar in general and you just like supporting me, which I appreciate. If you do want to see a video, however, though, on some of the bars that are in my normal rotation, let me know. I think it might be pretty interesting, but that's me. I'm a barbell nerd, if you will. Anyways, to know about this bar, we have to know a little bit about Kabuki, which I think you're probably familiar of. Probably know their 250K tensile power bar. It's a bar that a lot of people aspire to. It's like a grail type bar. Like that's their end goal of the bar they want to get because of its strength. You know, it chews other bars. Really good marketing at the time it came out. I've actually reviewed that bar a couple of years ago here on the channel, which I'll link somewhere on the screen in the description box. I don't know. But a lot has changed since then, especially my experience with barbells. And with Kabuki, they've come out with a lot of bars since then, most of which have been in the specialty vein. So a squat bar, a deadlift bar, a transformer bar, a Duffalo bar, an open trap bar, a Cadillac bar. But again, typically viewed as higher end pieces of equipment and also with higher end costs. So the power bar retails for like around $800 delivered, depending on which finish you get. So that's one of the reasons people aspire to get there, in addition to the fact that, you know, it chews up other bars, has really good knurling. It's also really expensive. So it's not something that people just usually just go out and buy in a whim, right? They work towards that, and their $200 or $300 bar that they might have now is sufficient enough. But Kabuki wanted to offer people, at least according to their marketing, a budget-friendly option. So getting to the Kabuki line, and that's where the Columbia Bar was born. And on their website, it says this is part of their Northwest series of bars, although I think this bar has been out for 6 months to a year. I haven't seen any other bars fall under that designation. I'm not sure if that's something that they're continuing with. Not really sure. But this is the only one that I'm aware of as a budget-friendly option into the Kabuki line. So you want a Kabuki bar, but don't or can't spend the money to get into the main power bar line. The Columbia Bar may be the bar for you, because you can have this at a budget-friendly price starting at $450 for bare steel. Pretty expensive overall, but being $300 to $400 cheaper than their other power bar, technically it is budget-friendly in that sense. Now, like any of their other barbells, they offer varying conditions in terms of what you get on the shaft. I hesitate there because depending on when you check, some things are available and some things aren't. So they just brought back the nickel for their main power bar, which is really cool to see. Cerakote comes in and out. So there's Cerakote on their main power bar. In this case, I have a Columbia bar in Cerakote, but it's not actually on the website right now. Based off of the pricing and just how some of the other things work, I would imagine retail price on this is somewhere between $550 and $570. So it's going to be one of the higher cost bars you can get in the Columbia lineup. Again, with bare steel starting at $450. Now, in addition to that price savings, you get some other things that are different with this bar. Namely, number one, it's a 28.5 millimeter diameter on the shaft, which, knowing me, I typically prefer 29 millimeters. I want it as stiff as possible, but I understand why they might have gone that route for this bar, because they don't want to cannibalize their 29 millimeter power bar. So that's one of the trade-offs. It is slightly thinner in diameter overall. You will also notice that the collars on this are slightly thicker by about ½ inch, ¼ inch on each side, which means the distribution of weight is going to be further apart. Combine that with a thinner shaft, you will get more flex in this bar than what you would with their normal power bar. Speaking of their normal power bar, one of the things we've talked about already is the name, 250K tensile strength. They put the marketing right in the title. This is not called the 250K Columbia Bar, because it is not 250K. In fact, this is 190K, so quite a drastic difference between the two, which again is a little bit interesting because when Kabuki came out with their initial 250K power bar, that was kind of the big push, like this is the hardest bar out there, and again, they showed videos of it chewing up other bars. Budget-friendly option, you get a more pedestrian, which still is completely fine, 190K. And if you're not familiar with tensile strength, basically that's how much force or load this bar can handle before it becomes permanently deformed. So bending the bar and it not snapping back into shape, because as you'll notice, when you lift, all bars are going to flex, bend a little bit. In the case of deadlift bars, even more, but it will snap back to shape, no problem. But if you're dealing with bars under 190K, you might have issues where they bend and flex and don't bend and flex back. So my general rule of thumb is if it's at least 190K, you're okay. But there's interesting schools of thoughts that when you start getting above like 215, 220, that the bars are gonna become more brittle, or they heat treated, all sorts of stuff that you probably don't necessarily care about. But I think 190 to 220 is the sweet spot for most, and this fits within it. Now with this too, what you'll notice is you do get the same knurling pattern that the power bar is known for, which again is one of the selling points. A lot of people want that Kabuki 250K power bar because they hear such good things about the knurling. The knurling on here, I would say, is good. And I hesitate there because if you've seen my other videos on Cerakote, you know Cerakote is not my preferred finish. This bar was sent to me for free for my thoughts, feedback. Actually, they didn't even ask for my thoughts or feedback. They just said, can we send you this bar? And I said, why not? They sent me a Cerakote. I'm not a fan of Cerakote, mostly because I find that it fills in the gaps of the knurling a little bit more, so it dulls the feel of the bar. And I'm a feely, touchy kind of guy, which sounds terrible to say on video. Strike that from the internet record, please. But the Cerakote does definitely dull it some, but the knurling here is still good. I think one of the things that people get confused about with the Kabuki knurl is they think it's really aggressive and or sharp. It is not. This is a grippy knurling. So it has a very high TPI, or tips per inch, tops per inch, which basically means the knurling pattern is very condensed. So you get a lot of points of touch in a smaller footprint. And this is also done in a mountain style. So it's going to be grippier in some cases than a volcano style. Now, when you have a high TPI or a lot of tops per inch, teeth per inch, tips per inch, depending on which manufacturer you talk to, one of the downsides is you cannot cut as deep because there's just so many touch points here, which is why I typically prefer a lower TPI of around 16 or so, because you can get bigger knurl patterns and deeper knurl cuts. So you're going to have kind of a sharper, more aggressive bar. So depending on your personal preference, if you like something that's just really grippy, this could be a bar for you. If you like something that's sharp and aggressive, this probably is not your cup of tea. Now, speaking of knurling, this has standard power bar knurl. One of the things that's also different with this bar than the normal 250K power bar, it's funny saying that's normal when that's not a normal number. The center knurl here is actually longer, and a couple interesting things about this. The normal power bar has a 4.5 inch center knurl. This one's a little bit over 6 inches. So you're getting like an 1.75 inches more. Normally you have to pay for longer length. In this case, you actually get it thrown in for a budget-friendly price of starting at $450. But if you look on the website for this barbell in Kabuki, it actually says that it does not have a center knurl. All their pictures on the website, center knurl. The bar in my hands, center knurl. I don't know. So that was a little bit interesting to me, but otherwise it is a very similar experience to their normal bar. Some things this one does not have, like the normal bar does. Center knurl ring marks, which is kind of like a stupid thing. Like it doesn't really do too much. A lot of people, you know, when you're squatting in equipped gear, like a lot of squat bars will have a center knurl because as you're setting up and trying to get really tight, you'd have like a back spotter or a loader who kind of try to make sure you were center. I think it's a classy touch on a power bar. So I would have liked to see that added in, but I guess in this case, if you want that, you have to pay the extra couple $100. Now the sleeve choice for me here was black oxide. And I do like black oxide as a finish on barbells in this environment because it doesn't offer much corrosion resistance, but it also doesn't add much to the knurl in terms of feel. So you get like a better feel of the bar. On sleeves, I'm not as sold because what you'll find is as the plates go on and off, that black oxide is going to rub and wear. And even though I don't use this bar much, you can definitely tell that the sleeves have some wear on them already. So if I use this bar even more frequently, they would look, in my opinion, even worse. But you have the choice of some of the finishes when you pick out your own bar. I'm just giving you feedback on this particular one. Now, one of the nice things they did carry over with this was the stamped squat face end caps. These end caps have changed a little over the years where it used to be cut a little bit different. Now you get more of like a pancake style where you can see where they pressed it in, but still really nice end caps in my opinion and something that a lot of people like. Finally, the last thing I want to say about this bar is the fact that it is what I would consider a more sloppy bar. And I hesitate to say that because I think it's a good bar in general and it's okay to use, but it is one of the most noisy barbells that I own, which is surprising because most of my other noisy bars are because of the way it's constructed with not using, an actual snap ring on the end. They use roll pins instead. This one uses snap rings like a normal bar would, but I will show you some clips here of me using it and you can hear kind of the clanging, if you will. But even just spinning the sleeves, and I'll get some close-up ASMR type videos for you of just spinning the sleeves, it doesn't sound good. And that carries over in use. And I think for the price point of as low-cost, budget-friendly 450 can be, I would expect a lot more from a bar of that cost. So that's just kind of disheartening to see. So overall, the Kabuki Columbia Bar, it does offer you a budget-friendly way to get a power bar from Kabuki, but in my opinion, it just doesn't make sense for a lot of people. And for me, because it's 28.5 millimeters, the weights are pushed out a little bit more. In this case, it's red Cerakote. The knurling, while grippy, I prefer a chunkier knurl, if you will. And it's just kind of a noisier, sloppy type bar, which again, I don't really like because I'm a barbell nerd and I have issues that can go undocumented on YouTube. But let me know what you think about the Columbia Bar in the comment section below. Is this potentially a bar for you? Could be. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.